Good morning, everyone. I hope you are well and had a wonderful Shabbos. Today's learning is dedicated in memory of Marcel Journo, Gittel Bas Avram Selby, Marco Bas David Edelman, Hirsch ben Leib Mansky, and Yitzchak ben Avraham Rubin. We wish all the families long life. So this morning we are going to be discussing about the fast of Tamuz. Today marks the beginning of the 3-week period of mourning over the destruction of the two temples and many other tragedies that have befallen our nation. Good morning, David and Peter. So the question really, I guess, is, what relevance to us? And I think it's very, very difficult for us to relate to the 3-week period and the fast of Tammuz because frankly, it all happened quite a long time ago. We're talking about 2,000 years ago. But that having been said, we know that this period reflects and embodies all the tragedies that have befallen our nation. And secondly, what is also telling is that the fact that we are still in the same situation 2,000 years later is an indicator that we are still suffering from the same malady, right? In other words, it doesn't matter how old you are, if you still have the same symptoms, right? Or you have the same every year you get a certain illness or a certain rash, then or reaction, then you know that you haven't managed to overcome and to deal and to address the underlying issue. So the fact that we are still in exile, the fact that we're still in so much suffering and pain and struggling as a nation in many ways means that we are still suffering from the underlying issue. I think there is a real tendency, and I can only speak for myself, but I think all of us, when we think of the 3 weeks, we think of restrictions, negatives. What can't I do? And we start to think of, well, I'm not allowed to listen to music, and I'm not allowed to have celebrations, no weddings, no parties, no haircuts. And that's basically the way that we see the 3-week period, as a bunch of negative commandments, restrictions. It's COVID type limitations, and therefore we feel rather miserable. Now, the truth is that that is part of what we are meant to feel during this period. But the period of the 3 weeks and all the restrictions that we have are merely a means to an end. What do I mean? I mean that it's meant to put us in the right frame of mind. It's meant to set the scene, the ambiance, so that we are able to reflect and to go through a process of introspection, and then hopefully arrive at an understanding and appreciation as to what has gone wrong with us as individuals, as a nation, and what we need to put right. Yeah? So sometimes if you walk into any room, the scene has been set. If you walk into a wedding, you see the flowers, the lighting, it sets the scene, the tone. If you go into, I don't know, a sporting event, or you go into, any type of work setting, the lighting, the ambiance, the decor, all is there to put you in the right frame of mind. If a business mind, a school mind, an educational mind, whatever it is. And so too, in the 3 weeks, all the restrictions that we have are there to put us in the right place. So therefore, we are meant to, in this period, use it constructively, right? And we're meant to see it as a period where I think about, well, clearly things aren't quite the way they should be. Not in the world, not in Israel, and not in our own lives. And therefore, what is it that I need to improve? And we know that the Second Temple, it's well known by all of you, was destroyed because of sinat chinam, mindless hatred. The fact that people couldn't get along with one another. And we're going to discuss it in some detail over the coming weeks. But suffice to say, if that was the cause of the destruction and the temple has still not been able to be rebuilt, our sages tell us it's only because we are still, even in 2021, still have not learnt the lessons of our past and are still treating each other with not the necessary respect and love and affection and dignity that each and every person deserves. And that, of course, is food for thought. It's when you lose something, you should eventually arrive at a fresh appreciation. So the COVID restrictions that we're all living through, right? When we have been separated from our nearest and dearest, not being able to hug family and friends, it should, when we come back together, we should have a renewed appreciation for what we have lost and what we've been without. That is at least the ideal. Things that we take for granted, when they're threatened with being lost, then we have a fresh appreciation. What have we lost? So we've lost, of course, that special bond between us and God, that close relationship, because the close relationship between us and God mirrors the way that we treat one another. If we treat each other with the dignity and respect we deserve, then so too God will shower his blessings on us, and the temple will be rebuilt, there'll be peace and everything else. But if we can't even get along with one another, what hope do we have? I remember many years ago, I was working with Ethiopians, wonderful, wonderful Ethiopians in Israel, in a place called Neve Carmel. Neve Carmel is near Haifa, and it was a caravan park. They'd literally just come over. And I heard the following story, and I know you're not going to believe it, but it is true. And the story goes that the Ethiopians, the Ethiopian Jews, that for my mind have had quite a rough deal in Israel, and that's a topic for another time. Happy to discuss it with you all. But they are some of the lost tribes of Israel, and they found themselves separated from the rest of Israel, and they lost touch with the Jewish people. And having lost touch with the Jewish people, therefore, they still believed that they were exiled, but they believed that the temple was still standing. They believed that the temple was still standing, and that was the belief that they had. And the story goes that an Ethiopian boy who was being integrated into the Israeli educational system, he was sitting there, and it was just before the 3 weeks, and the teacher started to speak about the 3 weeks and the fact that the temple, we lost the temple, and immediately this quiet boy started to scream and shout and cry uncontrollably and ran out the room. The headmaster came back a few minutes, and he said to the teacher, "What did you say? This boy's, we can't control him. He's completely besides himself with upset." And she said, "I was discussing about the 3 weeks. I was discussing about the destruction of the temple." And the headmaster turned to the boy and said, "Was this what upset you?" And he nodded his head. And the headmaster said to the teacher, "You don't understand. From where they come from, they really believe that the temple was still standing. For them, it was a reality. And now you've shattered all their illusions." So for us, of course, it's something that's rather abstract. It's something of our history, of our past. But we have to recognize, that however difficult it is, that we have lost not just a building, but what it represents about the way that people interact with each other, the way we behave, the way our relationship with God. And therefore we should be longing for what we've lost, and therefore make the necessary amends. Think about Gila's project at the moment, 21 days, WhatsApps that are going on the Hack and Blog, and you'll be able to learn for a minute a day about some way and something that you can do to improve yourselves. So with that, we're going to conclude, because my battery's almost out, and as you can see, I'm still in the car. And we'll recite the memorial prayer. Adon Olamim Zacho Es Nishmois Marcel Juno Gito Bas Avram Selby Malka Bas David Edelman Hesh Ben Leibmansky Yitzchak Ben Abram Ruben Shalchul Yonamam Vegan Aiden Temenuchosam Lachim Badarachamim Yatsirein Beseisa Kanafa Kanafa Yolamim Veyetzov Zachasrasham Adonai Nachlasam Vianuchu Bishlomish Kavam and Amar Amen. Lastly, before Shlema prayer, Misha Berach Avasin Romis Yaakov Moshaun David Shlomo Baruch Rapes Achelim Va Poshanim Mispalim Bavuram Bis Chazek Hashboch Yimale Rachim Aleichem Lachim Alfosam Vishlachem Fushlim and Shemaim Lacholevim B'Soshach Yisrael Refuat and Nefesh Fusakov Hashtag Agazman Karev and Amar Amen. Wishing everyone well, fast well, or at least make it a meaningful day, and please God, we'll be back with you tomorrow. All the very best.